came so far from dreams. The path was hard for me. They thought we fall, you see. Well, look at us now, look at us now. We make it hot when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we. Tell me who better than we. We soaring to places you never could reach. When we walk in that spot, don't hear none of you speak. Shh, do you want peace or the peace? A king about to put you to sleep. Listen, my team is elite. You not even qualified to compete. He's starving, he barely can eat. I guess that's why he always itching for beef. So I put him on ice and I told him to chill. Close your mouth if you can't pay for the meal. Making statements that you know you don't mean. Nice guy trying to act like he mean. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean. Attitudes will put you dudes in the beam. Izuku, he don't live in reality. Shake back off, but come on fatality. Yeah, how you gon' hate when you mirror us? He think he a star, he ain't serious. X him out, we not on the same frequency. If you broke, you ain't hearing us. Work the screw, anime, that's how I feel, period. We winning, that's making them furious. We make it high when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. You sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we.
Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leon Mookie here, back with you with another new part of What If Izuku Became Vanguard. This is part 7, and honestly, this is going to be the part I have been looking forward to for a while now. Because if I'm going to be completely honest, as a fan of Vanguard, I've always been a fan of Shadow Paladins more than I am that of Royal and Gold Paladins. So if I begin glazing that of, well, Shadow Paladins more in this, well, part than that I have with that of Shadow Paladins and Gold Paladins, well, you're going to see why anyway. So with that warning out of the way, let's get into that of the recap. In the last part, Izuku was beginning his 3rd day at UA High, with the day basically becoming quite, well, something. Dealing with reporters at the entrance of the school, having to be chosen as that of class rep for Class 1A, and soon after having to calm down a bunch of students in out of the cafeteria by becoming Blaster Dark, his Shadow Paladin avatar. However, wanting to thank Ida and also thinking he would be a great fit for that of the, well, class as that of a vice rep alongside that of Momo, they decided to make him a secondary vice rep of Class 1A, giving them that of 3 representatives for Class 1A. Not to mention bringing up the fact about that of Izuku's quirk, and everybody talking about how popular and how cool they would be due to their quirks. However, Izuku, on the other hand, doesn't think that quirks alone would make somebody popular. It's who they are as a person and when they become a hero more than anything. He also loves the fact that a few of his students are fans of Vanguard as well. Even though they're all aiming to be heroes, Vanguard is always in people's hearts no matter what. However, their next assignment for the hero course is for rescue training, mainly in data disaster areas within the USJ, overseen by that of 13, Aizawa, and All Might. However, All Might's not there. However, at the same time, that's when villains begin to invade the USJ, with one of the villains basically separating those from Class 1A and scatter them all across the USJ, with now the battle for survival begins. So, with all that said, let's get into this, shall we, guys? Also, apologies, it's raining where I'm at, and I'm basically upgrading my recording booth, so I'm a little bit, well, if you hear some rain, apologies. Seeing that half of Class 1A has basically been sent to other areas, 13 couldn't help but be shocked that that half of her students are now gone. That's when the Misty villain, otherwise known as Korogiri, couldn't help but basically snicker a bit, saying, "Oh, I thought I could get all of them, but it seems like even some were I was unable to get every one of them. No matter, it's not like you're going anywhere after all." With soon 13 couldn't help but grit her teeth under that of her helmet, saying, "I have to protect all the students. I may not be a combat hero, but I need to make sure that they're all safe." As she brings up her right arm, within one of the capsules on that of her hand activate, basically preventing that of her quirk to activate black hole as she was about to fight Kurogiri. With Uraka still there, she soon noticed two holsters on the ground as they're being card holsters. Within saying, wait, what are, before noticing, these are Deku's cards. Within, Mina noticing this saying, wait, those are Midoriya's cards? What is he gonna do without them? Within, soon, Sero going over saying, wait, I know those symbols. I think that's the one for Royal Paladins and the others are Gold Paladins. As then, Shoji saying, does that even matter? I'm not really sure. We don't really know much. Midoriya said that his quirk revolves around that of the card game of Vanguard. And if I recall, his screen name is called the King of Paladins. If I know the lore of card, and I'm not that really, proficient with the lore of Cardfight Vanguard, so I don't really know much about it. All I know is that there are basically three types of paladins. One's considered to be the good guys, the others somewhat of the secondary good guys, and the shadow paladins considered the, bad guys among that of the good guys? I don't know what to say. Within, as everybody's still worried, but especially Uraka, worried about Izuku, what he's going to do without his deck. Speaking of Izuku, he feels like he's endlessly falling to nowhere, like an endless void basically consuming him. Before then, he finally feels like he's out of the void before being dunked into that of water. Within, looking around, as opening his eyes, seeing that he's basically in a big pool of water. Before then, noticing that of a villain, as this villain looks like that of a shark, which shows signs that his quirk basically mutated him into looking more and more like a shark after all. With Izuku wanting to pull out one of his cards, however, realizing that he doesn't have, good control underwater. Within, however, before the shark could basically bite down on him, that's when 2 feet basically kick the villain in the face. As these pair of their legs come from Class 1A's resident frog girl, Tsuyu Asui, within saying, don't worry Midoriya, I got you. Before then extending her tongue, grabbing Izuku out of the water. Before then raising up and putting him on that of a boat in the water. Within Izuku saying, thanks Asui. Within seeing her pop out and noticing she has somebody else on by her side, as it being Mineta, as Izuku didn't hear what Mineta said. However, it had to be that of a perverted comment, because when she brought him onto that of the boat, she slammed him so hard that it almost looked like you could actually hear his spine cracking, which freaked out Izuku quite a bit, saying, holy crap, was that necessary? Within, Tsuyu basically coming up to that of the boat, looking at Izuku with a deadpan look, saying, yes it was. Realizing that her quirk makes her so blunt that to the point that she can't help but speak her mind. With Izuku still feeling quite nervous around her, he couldn't help but think, man, if she was a card fighter with that poker face, even while being blunt, she would definitely be one hell of an opponent. Before then, noticing that of tons of people basically swimming towards them, as those are possibly more than just one villain. But then Izuku realizing, damn it, this entire area, maybe I should. Before then, finally getting a better feeling of his body and his person, before noticing, wait, where are the rest of my deck? I only have... Before then, noticing the symbol on his deck, saying, I only have my Shadow Paladins. Don't tell me that they fell in the water. Oh man, those cards mean so much to me. I worked so hard to build those. Not to mention, some of those cards have sentimental value. But Izuku couldn't help but feel a little bit frustrated. Before then, thinking, these villains just really had to attack us. Why? But then, Tsuyu saying, Midoriya, are you going to be okay? But then, shaking his fist, saying, yeah, I'm fine. Right now, we need to focus. Focus on what we're going to do to get out of this situation. But then, Mineta well, recovering from the pain of his back basically nearly being broken, saying, "What are you talking about? Isn't it obvious? We do nothing. We'll just let the teachers handle this. They're pros and heroes. They can handle anything." But then, hearing that, looking at that of Mineta, saying, "You really expect that these villains didn't have a plan? Especially since they came here to take down All Might." But then, Mineta basically scoffing, saying, seriously? You really believe that? Come on, it's All Might. Nobody can take him out." But then, Izuku looking to the side, saying, "Normally I would believe that. However," before looking at his hands, noticing, saying, "Quirks evolve out as time goes on. They can become something even greater and more powerful. That whole quirk doomsday singularity theory, as it's one of the books that he read back when he was a kid. It was kind of the thing that allowed him to understand his quirk a little bit better, given that it was a mixture of all three main types of quirks, from emitter, transformation, and mutant type quirks. So it wouldn't be crazy to think that there may be some villains who have some outlandish and quite over the top out of this world quirks that could possibly even rival All Might's quirk." But then, so you're saying, so you're really thinking that these guys have something up their sleeves? But Izuku nodding, saying, "Possibly. But right now, we need to get out of here and focus on getting back to that of our classmates. I don't know about everybody else. We should focus on ourselves for now." Within, one of the villains saying, "Stay up there as long as you want, you little kiddos. We're gamming you straight. We're going to be tearing you apart piece by piece when we're done." Within, Izuku couldn't help but grit his teeth, with Tsuyu feeling a little bit worried, but still staying alert. However, Mineta, on the other hand, basically freaking out and basically tossing a few of his balls out onto the water. Within, Izuku saying, "Mineta, what are you doing?" But soon, noticing that none of the villains are coming after them, however, it almost looks like they're keeping away from the balls. Some even basically splashing his, sticky balls away. Within, Izuku noticing, wait, they don't know our quirks. Before then, coming to another realization, saying, if they knew about our quirks and they separated us, they wouldn't have sent somebody like that of Asui to this place. But instead, they decided to do so, which means they only took the schedule of All Mights. They didn't take anything from that of the students, or even said anything about that of their quirks, which means we have the perfect opportunity to strike right here and now. As Izuku couldn't help but smile, saying, "All right, I think I have the perfect plan, but I need time to prepare. Given that these villains are being cautious, this makes the perfect opportunity for me to put it in action." But then, Mineta is saying, "What the hell you think you're doing, Midoriya? This isn't the time." Within, basically removing his basically bringing out his deck, before then touching his glove, and then absorbing all of his cards, saying, "Now stand up, my Vanguard!" But then soon, materializing in that of a bright light as Izuku's figure begins to change, and below him, showing that of a spell circle that looks like that of the symbol of the Shadow Paladins. Before it begins to, as then, the logo of the Shadow Paladins begin to materialize around that of the body. Before then, and that of Izuku's place is that of a small humanoid dragon, with that of black armor, that of dark red scales, burning blue energy, construct into that of claws, wings without that of the leathering, almost looking like that of thrusters, to be honest. Within, seeing that of Izuku's eyes, as the creature normally has that of bright blue eyes, before replacing with Izuku's emerald green irises. But soon Izuku announced himself as Dead Crusher Dragon, Grade 0. Within, a few of the villains couldn't help but feel a little bit nervous about this, wondering what's going on. But then, Mineta saying, "Huh? What are you?" Before then going to that of the two, grabbing Mineta by that of his costume, and then telling Sue to get on his back. But then she's saying, "You sure, Midoriya?" Saying, Get on my back, Asui. I will not say again. With then she getting on that of his back. Before then, as soon that of the wing-like thrusters began to generate from his back. As soon blue thrusters made from that of the same energy from his claws flies out, propelling him forward and accelerating as well. But then the villains couldn't help but be shocked with one of them saying, "They're getting away!" But soon, one of them, with that of, well, white-like scales and quite has one heck of an overbite, actually saying, "Not for long," as he begins to create that of a massive water hand with claws and about to grab them. But then, Izuku seeing this, before then saying, "Apologies, Mineta, I'll make it up to you another time." But then, he was saying, "Wait, what are you?" Before then, throwing Mineta over that of the water claw as he screams in that of utter fear. But then, Tsuyu can help but say, "Midoriya." Before then, generating that of claw, the blue-like, magic-like energy in his hand, and that turning into that of powerful claws. Before then, rushing towards that of the water and blitzing right through it, like it was made out of paper, not even stopping him. His basically thrust. Within, the rest of the other water villains can help but be completely and utterly shocked that they were basically stopped right here and there without even breaking a sweat. Before noticing Mineta basically falling to the ground, Izuku, without even batting an eye, catches him with that of his tail. Within him coiling around that of the grape, within saying, "Why the hell did you do that?" Within saying, "What? I catch you. Be lucky, you damn perv." As flying off even further from that of the shipwreck zone, with the villains completely and utterly caught off guard and dumbfounded. As then they wonder, "Wait, so what are we gonna do now?" With one of the villains saying, "Why don't we go after them?" With soon others saying, "Are you crazy? We all suck without being in water areas like this. We're all completely useless if we go after them." But then the one villain created the massive claw saying, "Damn it, what the hell are we gonna do now?" As Izuku, alongside Tsuyu and Mineta, head back to that of the center of the USJ, everybody across the USJ are basically doing at least a little bit fine, or, well, could be better, to be honest. Kirishima and Bakugo taking out that of the villains at that of the abandoned destroyed city zone. And of course, Bakugo revels in this because it's what he lives for, after all, taking down villains and proving that he is the best. With Kirishima just doing what he can to help out Bakugo, just seeing it as the manly thing to do. Tokiyami being in that of the, well, storm zone, it makes it perfect for somebody like him. Not to mention, since none of his classmates outside of him is there, he can basically let Dark Shadow loose to unleash dark fury onto the villains. Ojiro and Koda are currently at that of the conflagration zone, basically where all the fire is, as the villains aren't really that much of a problem for somebody who is a trained martial artist, after all. Koda, on the other hand, he's not really that useful there, but he's making sure to stay out of Ojiro's way. As for that of Shoto, currently in that of the landslide zone, well, he basically used his quirk all out and take down the villains without even breaking a sweat. Luckily, Toru is made sure to stay out of the way for that of Shoto to basically send the ice wave to everybody, even though Shoto doesn't even know that the invisible girl is even there. As for the next people, being that of Momo, Jiro, and Kaminari, as they're not really doing bad, but they're not really doing that good either, given that, well, Kaminari's kind of useless if he goes all out and basically, well, jams his brain. However, Jiro decides to use it for another reason, being a human taser. So for now, they're not really half bad, but not taking down as many people as the others. However, another person got caught up in all of this, being that of Aoyama. However, currently, we have no idea where his location is, though. Within, back at the center, Aizawa taking down villain after villain without even breaking a sweat, even while him constantly using his quirk on everybody. With Shigaraki couldn't help but be quite impressed with that of the pro, and saying that how cool he is. However, Aizawa, having enough of Shigaraki's cockiness and gloating, he couldn't help but basically take the opportunity to take down who he deems as the final boss. As he is about to deal that of an elbow strike to that of the Hands villain. However, that's when the Nomu soon steps in, as the man with that of the dark skin, beak-headed face, and brain exposed, not even saying anything. Aizawa maneuvering himself quite a bit, and was about to deal that of his elbow strike again down onto Shigaraki, before Shigaraki caught his elbow, before saying, also, about me being the final boss, that's the other way around. Nomu's the final boss. Eraserhead. With Aizawa now knowing this information, he couldn't help but basically be shocked about this. Before then, Shigaraki gives an order to the Nomu saying, Nomu, take him down. With that, the Nomu basically has that of a claw strike towards Aizawa, and all you could see was his goggles basically flying off and blood basically splatting up into the air. At the same time, that's when the students alongside 13 were trying to get Ida to head out to that of the outside of the USJ. However, getting past Kurogiri is easier said than done. Not to mention him putting 13 in that of commission by using her own quirk against her, by creating a warp gate in front of her and then one behind her, as her quirk basically destroys her costume. However, seeing the perfect opportunity and no longer staying on the sidelines, that's when those at that of the entrance decided to step in, with Uraka basically grabbing that of the metal brace on that of Kurogiri, basically causing him to float, destabilizing that of his warp gate. At the same time, that's when Sero, using his tape, giving his tape to that of Sato, whirling him around and keeping him away from that of everybody else, allowing Ida the perfect opportunity to blitz towards the gate and get past the emergency shutter doors and head straight for UA to warn and gain backup. However, little did they know, they were also seeing this as well, as Kurogiri was about to warp gate towards that of Shigaraki. However, little did he know, he was hit on his metal brace, as his metal brace basically completely breaks, destabilizing him even more than before, with him wondering what? However, as the one who did it was Izuku, still in his grade 0 Vanguard. Within him couldn't help but smirk, even though his maul makes him look quite threatening, saying, how you like that, Miss Face? When I saw that our classmates were able to get you away from that of 13 in the ground, showing that your body is still semi-solid in one way or another. Makes sense. Even with a quirk like that, your body still has to have that of organs and bones and a skeletal structure to still move around like in the way that you are. That brace is what's keeping you intact after all. Soon, Kurogiri, noticing this, deciding to warp back to that of Shigaraki. Within, noticing the state that his warp gate is in, with Shigaraki saying, Kurogiri, what the hell happened to you? Within, still trying to keep himself together, saying, apologies, Master Tomura Shigaraki, but it seems I have let one of the students basically escaped. However, one of them was even also able to damage my metal brace, keeping me. I cannot stay in this form for too long. If we do not go, I may not be able to get us out of here afterwards. Within hearing that, Shigaraki couldn't help but get annoyed at this as he began scratching his neck, saying, damn it, why now of all times? I can't believe this. And not only that, the pros are going to be showing up. This just had to happen. Who the hell even caused this? Before then, hearing that of the sounds of the jet-like energy, noticing that of a creature, saying, what the hell? I don't remember seeing one of those brats look like that. Within, soon, Kurogiri saying, it must be their quirk. They must have had a transformation quirk that allows them to transform into one of those things. should have did our research on that of the students' quirks outside of All Might's schedule. Within, Shigaraki could help but say, you know what, screw it, doesn't matter. It's game over for us anyway. Or is it though? Within, seeing that of the Nomu pinning that of Aizawa, with his face almost completely bloody, his arm basically broken, and multiple craters centering around that of the 1A teacher. Within, saying, well, whatever. Too bad I can't play with you a little longer, Eraserhead. I had a little bit of fun. As Aizawa was able to keep up his fighting, but when the Nomu started to jump in alongside that of the, wannabe villains after all, that's when it got a little bit difficult for the veteran underground pro hero. Within saying, you know what, how about I go, even though we're going to be gone, how about I send that of All Might and even those pros a little bit of a FU to them? As he couldn't help but basically smile behind that of his hand mask before looking at Nomu saying, Nomu, go berserk, kill everybody here, even that of our little NPC minions here as well. Within, hearing that, that's when the Nomu begins to roar and growl, before then rushing over to that of one of the villains saying, hey, what are you? Before then, not even phased, as he slams his fist into that of the villain, sending him flying with his face completely bloody and almost looking like it's about to be caved in, with one of the villains saying, what the hell is that thing doing? Call it off! Within, the other saying, yeah, we're allies! What's going? Before soon, that's when Kurogiri uses his one last warp gates before he fully destabilized. And then, as Shigaraki also goes through it as well, saying, you all did your part well, even though you were nothing but fodder after all. Now be the good, useful tools that you are, and basically make things easier for me. With soon, Shigaraki fades, within one of the villains saying, did he just freaking abandon us? Within, a female villain saying, I think he did, and without warning, that same female villain was basically bisected into two. And then, seeing that of her corpse on the ground, with all the other villains basically freaking out. At the same time, those that of the students at the entrance can help but be shocked and surprised too, with many of them basically utterly terrified and scared for their life. With Uraraka saying, "Oh my God, why? Why is it doing that?" But then even Mina couldn't help but feel a little bit terrified, saying, "I don't get it. Aren't they allies? Why would?" But then landing on the ground, saying, "It looks like the League of Villains just send one of their minions to basically go berserk on them." I was able to hear a little bit. The two ringleaders basically just left everyone behind for themselves. What ensued, everybody shocked and surprised. However, they recognized the voice being Izuku, with Ochako saying, "Deku, what are you?" Within, realizing, "Oh right, you don't have any of your other cards, so you..." Within, saying, "Yeah, I'm currently using my Shadow Paladins right now." As Suyu gets off his back and he basically uncurls his tail for Mineta to, fly to get off the ground. However, swirls are basically in his eyes, showing that he basically could not handle the speed and G-forces. Within, Shoji saying, "Midoriya, what do we do now? Ida's already gone, so he's going to get back up." Within, saying, "As for that, what about that?" As Shoji basically points at the Nomu killing all the villains down below. Before then, it notices Aizawa trying to get back up, even though with only one good arm, still coughing up a little bit of blood, as it soon about to go to that of the hero teacher, seeing his teacher in danger, Izuku. Without warning, body reacted without realizing it, rushes towards the Nomu, and blitzing forward. Within, Ochako, alongside that of Suyu and Mina, saying, "Midoriya! Deku!" Generating that of the energy-like claws before then striking down onto that of the Nomu on its back. Within the Nomu basically screaming a little bit in pain. With seeing the perfect opportunity, he goes to that of his teacher and grabs him by that of his good arm, and then bring him to that of the entrance stairs. While that of the villains trying to run away, the Nomu, not even caring, basically takes each and every one of them, some being knocked out, some basically blacking out entirely, while some being killed outright. With Izuku trying to look over his teacher, within saying, Mr. Aizawa, hey, hang in there, Mr. Aizawa. With Sued say, Midoriya, is that you? Say, yeah, it's me. Don't worry, I'll get you somewhere safe. We just gotta hold out a little bit. Before then saying, Midoriya, tell me the limitations of your quirk. Within saying, huh? You absorbed your entire deck, did you not? Saying, yeah, I did. And I can basically promote to grade 1 anytime I feel like it, but saying, I'm giving you an order, Midoriya. I feel like you're the only one that can handle that thing, since it said it was supposed to take down All Might. Within hearing this, Izuku, wanting to feel glad that his teacher has this much faith in him and take down a creature said to take on his idol after all, but saying, Sir, as much as I appreciate the flattery, but this isn't the time for that. Within saying, Midoriya, you're the only one here whose quirk is capable of handling that creature right now. I am not stupid. After the quirk assessment test, I look over your quirk statements again and looked over that of the card fight Vanguard. I played it a little bit back as a child, but I never really cared too much about it, to be honest. Saw it as nothing but a pastime, as he soon coughs up even more. But then, realizing that your quirk revolves around that card game, a friend of mine once told me, card fight is nothing to mess with. If you look at the lore of it, it's crazy. If your quirk revolves around the entirety of the card game, even its lore, you're the only one that can basically put up a fight against that creature. I'm asking you, not as just as your teacher, not as a pro, but as a person, do what you have to before the pros show up to take that thing down. Do I make myself clear? Within hearing this, Izuku couldn't help but feel that of joy. Joy of somebody believing in him this much. Joy that somebody sees him has potential of becoming this much of a hero. Even though he may be a distraction, he could do the right thing and stop this thing once and for all. Within seeing the opportunity saying, yes, sir. I promise, sir. With that, seeing that, Izuku gets Aizawa back to that of the stairs. With that of Sero alongside Shoji grabs their homeroom teacher. Within saying, look after Mr. Aizawa and Miss 13. Make sure you can tend their wounds as much as you can. Ochako asking, what about you, Deku? Within looking down, still seeing the Nomu going on a rampage. Before then, it notices those on that of the stairs as it's about to rush towards them, saying, I'm going to give you guys some time and also give the pros some chance as well. Within heading back down before then saying, I ride! As then his body begins to shift and change as the symbols of the Shadow Paladins materialize and circle around him. Before then, his appearance looks more beastly, with that of, as he looks like that of a wolf, with that of black armor, and that of a horn, with that of a embroidery horn on his forehead, and with tons of fur that almost looks like that of tails actually across his back, as he said, as this is his Vanguard. My bow! Within growling in that of pure and utter rage. Before then, not stopping there, saying, call to back row rear guard, Ibis Grail. Within seeing that of a unit that looks like that of a fallen angel, with that of blackened armor, dark navy blue armor, and raven black hair. Not to mention they're also quite beautiful feminine as well. Within soon, not stopping there, he calls the rear guard to that of his front rear guard, saying, "I call Drag Wizard Kinese." Within, seeing that of another unit materialize right beside that of Izuku. Within, seeing that of a that of a magic-like figure with a staff and all, wearing that of a horn-like hood with black robes and that of a navy blue cape. Within, the Nomu seeing this, seeing even more targets. Before then, Izuku stepping up even more, saying, "Perfect guard!" as he summons a unit for the perfect guard, as it looks like that of a giant, medieval futuristic castle. Demon World Castle Vanguard! As the massive castle goes all the way up to that of the USJ, so making everybody completely shocked. Even those who were heading to that of the center couldn't help but be shocked by this. Except one who couldn't help but grit his teeth, saying, "Damn it, Deku! Trying to take the spotlight, aren't you?" Within, blitzing forward being Bakugo, with Kirishima trying to catch up as much as he can, with even Shoto wanting to catch up too. Before then, the Nomu completely shocked by this as he tries to damage the castle even more. Seeing a perfect opportunity, that's when Izuku and his unit, Drag Wizard Kinese, began to send that of magical blast of fire towards that of the Nomu. Within, the Nomu basically screaming in pain from that of the attack. However, not stopping there. Within, Izuku saying, "With support from Abyss Grail, Mobris attack!" With his strength amplified by that of his rearguard unit. He sends that of a powerful slash towards the Nomu, basically cutting through that of its body, and even its quirk, shock absorption. Within, Izuku couldn't help but smile, seeing his fang teeth. However, as soon as he does, that's when the Nomu basically slams his fist into that of Izuku's body, sending him flying, giving him 1 damage count, which means he's able to take that of 5 more hits. When soon, the Nobu's body begins to regenerate from that of the claw strike. Noticing that the wounds have healed, saying, "Regeneration? But that was a pretty deep gouge. Even for a normal person, that would take months to heal. Even with that of a regular regeneration quirk, which would take that of days." But then, the Nomu basically rushing towards Izuku once again. However, Kinese sends another blast of magic, with the Nomu deciding to attack that of his rear guard. With then sending another blast after blast, as the rear guard was basically frantic, with the Nomu basically slamming his fist into that of the feminine-looking mage, before completely shattering into particles of purple lights. But then, Izuku couldn't help but grit his teeth, before then needing more units, as he begins to make multiple calls, saying, "Call to front rear guard, Abyss Router!" Not stopping there, he calls another unit to that of the front rear guard, saying, "Call Skull Witch Nevin!" As the 2 units appears, with that of Abyss Router looking like that of a quite beautiful and muscular curvaceous woman with that of black wings, tan skin like that of Mirako, silver hair with crimson red eyes, and that of navy blue black armor, and wielding that of 2 ring blades, or I should say chakras. As for Skull Witch Nevin, basically a quite beautiful and well-endowed beautiful woman with an outfit that leaves little to the imagination after all, with silver pinkish hair, pointy elf ears, and tons of skulls that are basically burning, all floating around her. With then catching everybody off guard, but soon Izuku didn't stop there, creating that of 2 more support rear guard units. To that of the back left support unit, Howling Owl, and to the right, Drag Prentice Myach. As Howling Owl basically is, just like that, an owl. However, with that of black wings and black armor. However, its eyes almost looks like that of, well, energy light sunglasses. And Drag Prentice Mayach basically looks like that of a little girl with that of a purple dress, black armor, a black armor headpiece, a purple frilly cape. However, what stands out the most is that of her hands having that of a blue and green dragon puppets. However, the dragon puppets begin to basically spit out a little bit of fire. Within, everybody completely shocked by this. Hell, even that of the villains who were basically trying to stay away from that of the Nomu couldn't help but be shocked by all the units. Within, soon, even everyone from that of Class 1A at the stairs can help but be shocked. Within, Cyril saying, "Whoa, that's a lot of units, all in person and not in hologram form." Within, Sue Mineta getting a better look at all of them saying, "Damn it, that is so not fair!" Within, everybody looking at that of the great teen. Within, Mineta basically began crying that of tears of blood saying, "Look at Midoriya with all those damn hotties down there. It's almost like he has his own personal little harem." Within, everybody couldn't help but deadpan at that of Mineta, with Tsuyu basically slapping him upside his head with her tongue. Within saying, "This isn't the time, Mineta. I hope Midoriya has his reasons for all those units." Within, Izuku's feeling the opportunity to basically promote to that of grade 2, but waiting for the perfect opportunity. As the Nomu, finally fully healing, rushes back towards Izuku. With Izuku seeing the perfect opportunity, he rushes over with support from that of his rear guard. His power increases again, rushing towards that of the Nomu, jumping over him and slashing him again. However, not stopping there, he soon basically calls for a trigger as he tries to get a trigger, but no trigger. But still not stopping there, slashing the Nomu's back once more, before then jumping away. At the same time, that's when his other two rear guard units within saying, "With support from that of Drag Prentice Mayach, Abyss Router, attack!" Within, the tan skin, black wing sends out a flurry of slashes and strikes from that of her chakra blades. Within, with that of the support from that of the rear guard, amplified even more. Within, once again saying, "With support from that of Howling Owl, School Witch Nevin, attack!" Within, Nevin actually basically chuckles, even though nobody could basically hear her voice. Before then, a ring of skulls basically circle around her. Before then, they begin to channel into that of a spell circle, and then send that of a blast of fiery lightning into that of the Nomu, burning him even more, as he basically screams out in agony with seeing his flesh basically burn and bubble at the same time, as the Nomu couldn't help but basically scream in that of agony. Within, everybody completely shocked by this, as the Nomu still trying to regenerate, but that of the combined attacks basically weakening his super regeneration. As Izuku was about to promote to that of his grade 2, that's when he hears the villain saying, "Holy crap, that kid is actually doing it!" Saying, "I can't believe that they're basically overwhelming his super regeneration." Within, another one saying, but what about the shock absorption quirk too? Added with that of the super strength and everything else. No way in hell that those things are going to be able to stop him." Within, hearing this saying, "Wait, it has multiple quirks outside of just super regeneration? Shock absorption. Wait, if this thing was supposed to take on All Might, wouldn't shock nullification work since all of his attacks are always punch base?" Within, thinking, either if this thing has multiple quirks and multiple abilities, then they were basically banking so much on that shock absorption and regeneration to basically take down Nomu, to basically take down All Might. Seriously, they didn't account for anything else? Or any other pro hero basically stepping in to help out? No wonder Nevin's attacks alongside that of Router were able to strike down. Shock absorption doesn't work well with that of bladed attacks, and alongside that of the regeneration when it comes to that of elemental attacks. So it means I have the perfect opportunity to take this thing down, once and for all. Within, seeing his fangs smile once again, saying, I will consume you into the darkness of hope. I ride my avatar, Blaster Blade! Within, begins to, as soon as Izuku's appearance changed once again, no longer on that of 4 legs anymore. He goes back to that of a humanoid appearance. Within, soon seeing that of a sword materialize in his hands, with that of multiple armor pieces materializing too, before soon, that's as the symbol of the Shadow Paladin circle around him, before dissipating and showing that of Blaster Dark, but with Izuku's messy green hair pointing out and his hair basically covering the right side of his face, just like that of Blaster Blade. With soon slamming his sword to the ground, saying, and I'm not gonna stop there. Because I have that of Blaster Blade as my Vanguard, I can activate its ability. The first ability allows me to basically retire one opponent's rear guard. And given that none of your allies are actually choosing to help you, I won't be able to need to send them away to somewhere else. Also means I can activate the second ability. I had to throw away 1 card into my drop zone, and to gain that of 1 critical trigger within soon, as doing so mentally, no longer being able to use that 1 card in Vice Falcon, but soon he feels the trigger as soon as then pulling out the sword from the ground, before then dark-like energy begins to coat around that of the double-bladed sword. Within, seeing the perfect opportunity, Izuku rushes towards the Nomu. As the Nomu trying to recover from that of his wounds, as the super regeneration being taxed, the Nomu, not stopping there, rushes towards Izuku, cutting the Nomu's arm into 2 as he was stopping his punch. Within, the Nomu, seeing the opportunity, basically was about to slam his fist into that of Izuku. Within, saying, Nevin! With support from Hell Owl! Within, sending another burst of electricity fire towards that of the Nomu, as the Nomu soon screams in pain, allowing Izuku to jump away before the attack had hit. Within, saying, damage check. Within, getting however, he gets 1 trigger. Draw trigger. Power goes to Abyss Router. With support from Mayach. Abyss Router attacks. Within, as the Nomu trying to regenerate its arm, as you could even see that of the flesh and bone basically repairing itself. Not letting that happen, the router basically cuts off the already regenerating arm. Before not even finishing off, she tries to cut right through that of the Nomu's neck as well. However, she didn't get in deep, showing on how tough the skin is though. Within, soon, without warning, the Nomu, even while in pain and neck basically slit, grabs that of Abyss Router and soon crushes that of the unit's head before it soon materialized into that of into purple particles. But then couldn't help but basically growl a little bit before saying, there goes my little plan I was planning to do. Soon trying to prepare to fight again against the Nomu, as the Nomu's neck fully regenerates, alongside its arm starting to regenerate as well from the pounds of flesh. As Izuku gets into that of a battle stance with his sword, that's when saying, out of my way, Deku! Within, realizing, shit. Within, Bakugo sends a powerful explosion towards the Nomu's face, saying, die! As that explosion soon sends the Nomu flying back a little bit, but not stopping there, that's when ice begins to rush towards the Nomu, basically encasing it in that of its left side. Somebody spoke up saying, Midoriya, you did well to hold out quite a bit, to be honest. Not bad, after all. Within, hearing this, saying, well, figures Kachan and Kirishima would show up, but I'm surprised you're willing to even help out Todoroki. Within saying, what's that supposed to mean? Soon, placing that of his sword on his shoulder, saying, isn't it obvious? You got that whole lone wolf act. Not to mention, your eyes basically scream, I don't give a damn about anyone but myself, me, myself, and I. And unlike that of Kachan's, who's basically explosive like a dumpster fire. Within, Bakugo screaming, you want to say that again? You're a dumpster fire, Kachan. Is that loud enough for you? With hearing Bakugo basically growling in the distance. But soon, Kirishima saying, is this the perfect time to basically antagonize him, Midoriya? We should be still. Within, Todoroki couldn't help but narrow his eyes to that of Izuku, with Izuku narrowing his eyes back. Within, saying, think what you want, doesn't matter. And also, he's not going to go anywhere. Within, Izuku saying, that's not going to hold him. Within, Shoto saying, what do you mean? That was before then. The Nomu begins to get out of the ice, with both his limbs basically completely corroded by the ice. With soon, at the same time, that's when super regeneration kicks in once more, regenerating his, detached arm and right leg once again. With soon, completely shocked by this. As then, Izuku can up and say, told you that wasn't going to work. Whatever, doesn't matter. We still have a play to make. Before then, feeling a click in his head, saying, guess it's time. The Nomu basically gets back up, seeing Bakugo, as then Bakugo was about to send that of another flurry of explosions towards that of the Nomu. As the Nomu rushes towards him with those explosions blitzing forward. However, no matter how much of the explosions that Bakugo sends, the Nomu's not stopping. Within, realizing, what the hell? Why the hell isn't it? Within, soon, already in front of Bakugo. Within, Kirishima scream out, Bakugo! Within, however, without warning, Izuku couldn't help but scream, shit, screw it, Generation Guard! With that, Generation Guard protects Bakugo, as then the unit that was guarding was that of a young woman with crimson red hair, a large black and blue staff, and a frilly black and white dress with black armor. And the way she guard was basically using that of fire magic, while creating that of a massive explosion to send that of the Nomu flying back a little bit. Within, Bakugo completely shocked by this, saying, what the hell? Within, Izuku saying, seriously, if you would let me talk, Kachan, I was about to explain things to you and Todoroki and Kirishima. That thing has multiple quirks. Within, Shoto saying, yeah, I heard that too from that of the villains. They say that it had multiple quirks that were basically made to take down All Might, but yeah, that's the thing. The quirks are basically super regeneration and shock absorption. Within, hearing that, Bakugo saying, did you just say shock absorption? Yeah, shock absorption. Your quirk is basically shockwave based. The flames are basically added damage. In simpler terms, Kachan, you're useless in this situation. Within, hearing that, Bakugo saying, you don't make me repeat myself, Katsuki! Within, hearing that, Bakugo completely caught off guard because Izuku has never called him by his first name. Bakugo, sure, Kachan mainly is that of an insult or that of taking things or trying to take him seriously, but when he calls him by his first name, he knows that he's dead serious. Within, saying, Todoroki, your ice may be useful, but it's not enough to basically whittle down his regeneration quirk. Fire, lightning, and possibly other quirks. Even that of quirks tied to that of blades can basically whittle down his shock, can basically bypass his shock absorption and go through that of his regeneration. Within, hearing that, Todoroki saying, I can do this without using my fire. Within, hearing that, saying, you cannot be serious. Within, looking back at the dual-haired tone boy, Within, saying, we are basically on a precipice of our lives unwasted. The main villains basically left this thing to kill us all. And you're saying you refuse to use your fire quirk when you know it's useful in this situation? Within, looking down, within, Izuku couldn't help but feel a little bit frustrated, saying, you know what? Fine, be useless. I'll handle this myself. Within, Kirishima saying, whoa, Midoriya, don't you think you're being... I said, I'll handle this, Kirishima. Within, hearing the growl with that in Izuku's tone, within saying, I hate being a Shadow Paladin, especially when it comes to being around allies. It makes me so aggressive and angry that the slightest thing that annoys me can really piss me off. So now, not only I had to waste a generation guard protecting Kachan, and now knowing that one of my own allies refuses to basically give it his all in this life and death situation, I am feeling upsetly frustrated right now. Within, soon the Nomu getting back its bearings, about to attack that of the students again. But soon Izuku couldn't help but growl, saying, I'll end this right here and now. The shadows of the dragons will consume you all! I ride my avatar! Within, soon materializing, changing his appearance once again, as still the same height as that of Blaster Dark, however, ditching that of the armor for that of robes, a large pointy hat, and also that of pointy shoes. Before then, even the sword disappears. However, what changes is that of his left arm, as it becomes massive with that of red scales basically coating it and sharp claws, with even that of crimson red flames materializing around the arm. Within, having that of a look of a handsome blonde-haired young man, however, replace it with that of Izuku's face and his green hair, but having more of a serious and quite pissed off look to him, before raising up his left arm and soon saying, Dragheart Luon! Extending his left arm out. Within, soon, that's when the Nomu rushes towards Izuku, within saying, I call to front rear guard, Crest Vicious Dragon! As Izuku heads to the Nomu, right beside him is another third grade unit, as it being a massive purplish dragon with that of purple black armor and a long blue mane on over its head, with that of large purple wings with that of symbols on it on that of its leathery wings, as it gives off a powerful roar, as everybody around the USJ can see this dragon. And replacing Skull Witch Nevin to the left rear guard, I call Original Mage Ildona! But then, replacing that of Skull Witch Nevin is that of a wise but also powerful and threatening young man with that of black robe shroud, showing his muscular chest, but with that of several markings around it. Baggy white pants, and also what stands out the most is the red jewel on his forehead, and that of the demonic clawed arms circling around him, mainly behind him. Also add that of the elf ears as well. Within, having a serious look as that of purple-like energy begins to channel across his hands, almost looking like that of black holes actually. Within, everybody could feel this pressure coming off of Izuku, especially from that of his units, almost like a power beyond anyone's comprehension. At the same time, that's when All Might, thanks to that of Ida, was almost close to that of the USJ and was about to break down the doors, but for some reason, even he could feel this pressure as well, as normally a pressure like this would even have him act even more than before. However, for some reason, it's a pressure of death, but not towards him, but towards something else. Within, wondering what's going on in here. Within, Izuku begins to activate that of Luon's special ability. Within, saying, with Luon as my Vanguard, I am now able to call that of a rear guard from my drop zone back into that of and able to summon it once again. Not to mention, I'm even able to go to that of my mental deck and call out that of, if I have that of Drag Driver Luon, as I shuffle my inner deck. Luckily I do, but I won't be wasting him just yet. Not before I put you in the ground. With then saying, Crest Vicious Dragon, attack! With support from Drag Page Myach, attack! With then seeing the opportunity, that's when that of the massive dragon sends that of a burst of purple flames towards that of the Nomu. With the Nomu basically consumed by these flames, causing its regeneration to be taxed even more than before. Crest's ability activates. When it's attacking that of the Vanguard, it's able to gain that of 3,000 points of power. After that, that's when the dragon's rune symbols on its wings begin to glow, with even sending more and more purplish flames into that of the Nomu as it soon roars in that of agony. However, Izuku's not going to stop right then and there, making sure that the Nomu is basically put down for good. The Crest Vicious Dragon flies off, no longer being able to attack, as then Izuku begins to fight himself. Drive check. First check. Second check. Critical trigger. Power goes to Ildona, and critical goes to Luon. As the power goes to Eldoa, you could feel that of the pressure coming off that of the elf-like mage. As for that of Izuku as Luon, that's when a red aura soon coats that of his dragonic arm. Before then, bringing it out, creating that of multiple spell circles, basically consuming around that of the Nomu. Within, the Nomu still trying to reel from the Crest Violence Dragon's attack, before noticing the spell circles, as then Izuku folds his hand into a fist, setting that of blast after blast of basically fiery spells coming straight for that of the Nomu, burning, basically consuming it in fire and burns, screaming more and more into agony. At the same time, that's when All Might finally steps in, wanting to stop it, finally trying to stop this, feeling the pressure becoming even stronger and stronger, with those from the stairs wanting to notice All Might. However, they can't, as their eyes are too glued on to the center of the USJ, seeing the so-called fight, or rather, one-side massacre now, with All Might wondering what's going on. But then, noticing that of the power, and even noticing that of the massive dragon in the center too. Before then, the Nomu, already on its last legs, having no energy left, basically turning his back away from the Nomu, walking away, as saying, with support from Howl Owl, original mage Ildona, attack and obliterate him. Within, soon, that of no longer crossing his legs, basically still floating within that of the floating arms behind him begins to circle, before then soon sending a blast of light of that of darkness towards the Nomu, but in that of his own hands, that of the dark spears in his hands, he combines together, before then sending that of a black Kamehameha-like attack towards that of the Nomu, blasting it away, blasting it so far that it basically breaks right through that of the USJ walls and completely nullifying its regeneration, as its body is regenerating so slow that it can barely even move, almost like it's already close to death's door. But then, walking back to that of the center of the USJ, before finally noticing All Might. Within, he couldn't help but smile, saying, "Sorry to take your spotlight, All Might. It's just this thing really pissed me off and I wanted to make sure everybody was safe. Hope you can understand." But then hearing that, soon, D transforming from that of his avatar, with then going back to that of his regular Izuku Midoriya form, with even that of his units disappearing in motes of light and purple lights as well. But then Izuku trying to take a breather as he couldn't help but go to that of his knees and trying to catch his breath. But then everybody out of shock as the aura and pressure coming off of Izuku finally disappears, with everybody now realizing about the situation, as some of them couldn't help but be worried for Izuku, and some running towards him, while others still somewhat in shock, with All Might saying, Young Midoriya was able to take down a villain pretty easily. But then, soon noticing that of the other villains still in shock, before noticing All Might, as all of them say, We surrender! Take us to jail! We don't want to fight that kid! We don't want to die! Just take us away! Damn it! As all of them basically scream and some of them even going to the ground, trying to basically show that they're not wanting to fight anymore. Seeing this even makes All Might even more shocked and surprised, wondering what the hell has happened here. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Let's read them. Yeah, this was a long one. Honestly, I wanted to get the entirety of the USJ arc out of the way as a whole. And once again, to basically glaze that the majesty that is Shadow Paladins. I won't lie, when I was making the script for this, I was debating if I wanted to show Izuku in that of his, grade 4 unit. I was really tempted on basically writing in drag driver Luan as to show it after all, but I think it might be a better chance to show his grade 4s during that of the sports festival. What you guys think anyway? As for Shigaraki, honestly, this Shigaraki is not going to be a lot more, volatile. Not to mention, All Might won't know about that of Shigaraki as well. However, the students, on the other hand, alongside Izuku, will basically give information about him, but whatever they could get. Even that of, Aizawa, if he's, in a talkative mood after all. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification to keep date my videos uploaded to the channel. Also, please check out my Discord, my gaming channel, my other channel, my side channel, my Patreon, my Cash App, and my PayPal. All linked in the description below. So, with all that said, this is Leon signing out. Later guys, hope you all take care. Do your thing, my Shiro.
Hi everyone, this is White Fox. If you liked Leon's video, click the video on the left to see the most recent one. And if you want to see more of this, click the subscribe button and notification bell and check out his playlists. If you still haven't subscribed, do so in the center. With that said, I hope to see you again on my love's channel. Bye!